What if the worst day of your life was actually the beginning of everything you've ever dreamed of? When a struggling baker crashes her cupcake cart into a millionaire CEO's luxury car, she thinks it's the end. But what starts as a disaster turns into a deal. And then into something that no one, especially her, saw coming. This is not just a story about cupcakes and contracts. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. Ava, a determined 26-year-old pastry delivery artist with dreams much larger than her modest beginnings, navigated the bustling, sun-drenched streets of Miami with a hopeful yet anxious heart. Clutching her well-worn phone and balancing a vibrant cart filled with freshly baked cupcakes and artisanal cookies, she was on her way to brighten someone's day, even as she juggled the responsibilities of caring for her aging grandmother and younger sibling. Amid the symphony of city sounds, fate intervened unexpectedly when Ava accidentally collided with a sleek, obsidian sedan parked along an avenue. Unbeknownst to her, the car belonged to Nathan, a 38-year-old tech mogul celebrated for his sharp intellect and unyielding business acumen. As shimmering droplets of sweet frosting flew into the Miami air, time seemed to slow. Nathan stepped out of his vehicle, his expression a curious blend of exasperation and intrigue. In that charged moment, a spark flickered between the two, a silent acknowledgement that perhaps this accidental encounter was destiny's way of bridging two worlds. While Ava's cheeks burned with embarrassment, a resilient glimmer of hope surfaced, setting the stage for a connection that would soon challenge their perceptions and change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Miami's humid air clung to Ava's skin as she raced against time with her cupcake cart rattling behind her like an old friend with arthritis. She had barely slept, her mind spinning with panic, strategy, and a touch of frosting-fueled denial. Nathan, the intimidating tech CEO with a glare sharper than a startup pitch rejection, had given her one chance to make amends: deliver coffee and sweets to his office. By 7:30 a.m. sharp, she arrived at the towering glass building of Langston Innovations, a modern fortress nestled in the heart of downtown Miami. The building seemed to hum with quiet judgment as Ava pushed her squeaky cart through the grand revolving doors. The security guard barely looked up before growling. "ID? I've got a napkin with my name on it." "In cursive," Ava joked. Not amused, the guard buzzed her through after a curt phone call upstairs. On the 29th floor, the executive suite radiated cold efficiency. Ava stepped into Nathan's corner office, her tray trembling in her hands. He didn't glance up from his sleek tablet. "You're 1 minute late." "Actually, I'm 60 seconds early if you consider island time." Silence. She placed the tray down carefully, presenting one double espresso mocha, 2 warm almond croissants, and a gluten-free muffin that had caused her a near meltdown and a kitchen fire. Nathan finally looked at her. His icy blue eyes scanned the tray. "This isn't a bakery. You do realize you crashed into my car? And now I'm crashing into your routine," she quipped, offering a crooked smile. Something about her spark, the way she didn't cower, made Nathan pause. He took a sip, blinked, took another. "This isn't awful," he muttered, more to himself than her. "High praise from the Oracle of Optimization," she said, relaxing ever so slightly. All week, she returned, each time with new pastries, quirkier jokes, and a resilient charm that started chipping away at Nathan's stoic shell. By Wednesday, he handed back the coffee cup with a sticky note. "No allergic reaction. Proceed." By Thursday, a croissant came with a note. "May contain 2% sarcasm." And on Friday, as Ava shuffled in, exhausted from a night caring for her sick grandmother, she barely managed a smile. Nathan raised an eyebrow. "You look like a hurricane hit you." "And you look like the storm," she replied, slumping into the chair opposite his desk. He didn't smile. But he also didn't ask her to leave. Instead, after a pause, he asked, "What's your secret?" "To what?" "To still showing up." Ava looked at him, eyes tired but steady. "Because if I stop, who's going to bring you gluten-free muffins and unsolicited life advice?" Nathan didn't say a word. But later that afternoon, Ava received a text from an unknown number. "Tomorrow. Same time. Bring 2 muffins. 1 for you. And it was the first sign that maybe this deal, this weird daily ritual, wasn't just about car repairs anymore. Maybe something was beginning to shift, one pastry at a time. By the following week, their strange little routine had become oddly comforting, Ava delivering her edible apologies, and Nathan offering his patented silence with occasional dry wit. But on a rainy Tuesday, comfort took a sharp detour. Ava rushed through the storm with her cart protected by a plastic tarp that fluttered like a wounded flag. Her sneakers were soaked, her curls frizzed into chaos, and the muffin tray kept sliding every time she turned a corner. But she made it, 6 minutes early. A miracle. Until she pushed through the pristine revolving doors of Langston Innovations and disaster greeted her. The moment she entered the sleek marble lobby, her foot slipped on the wet floor. Time slowed. Her tray lifted like a ballet dancer mid-leap, before launching 2 cups of mocha and a croissant straight into the cream-colored designer suit of a woman standing in front of the elevator. Gasps echoed. "Oh no," Ava whispered, already pulling napkins from her apron. I'm so sorry. Here, I have towels, baking soda, maybe a cookie for emotional damage." The woman's eyes narrowed like a cobra. "Do you know what this suit costs?" she hissed. "More than my rent, I'm guessing?" Ava offered meekly. The woman snapped her clutch shut and pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Ava. "You shouldn't even be here. People like you belong in corner cafes, not corporate lobbies." Her words stung deeper than the coffee burns. Ava's throat tightened, but before she could defend herself, a voice sliced through the tension like a blade. "Is there a problem?" "Nathan." He stood near the elevator, watching with quiet fury. The woman turned. "Your delivery girl just ruined my suit." "She's not a delivery girl," Nathan said calmly. "She's the director of human confination. And also, the only person who's managed to make this place feel less robotic." The woman scoffed. "This is how you let staff behave?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "This is how I handle arrogance. You should take your complaints upstairs." "To yourself?" She flushed, sputtered, and stormed off, heels clicking like gunfire across the marble. Ava stood frozen, coffee-soaked and speechless. Nathan turned to her. "You okay?" She blinked. "You just stood up for me." "Technically, I prevented a scene from escalating," he replied dryly. "That was the most CEO way to say I care I've ever heard." For a moment, he smiled, an actual smile. Later that day, Ava found a small package taped to her cart. Inside, a pair of waterproof, slip-resistant sneakers and a note. "Lobby-proof. Wear them tomorrow. Also, extra muffins." And she laughed out loud, right there on the sidewalk. What had started as a series of awkward mornings was now something else entirely. The air between them had changed. This wasn't just a corporate arrangement anymore. It was becoming a story neither of them expected. The following days were quieter, but not in the way Ava feared. Something had shifted, subtly, unmistakably. Nathan didn't just sip his coffee anymore. He asked questions. Real ones. "How long have you had the cart? Ever think about opening a shop? Why cupcakes? Why not something less messy?" Ava answered, half joking as always, but her voice was starting to carry more weight. It wasn't just banter now, it was building. And Nathan was listening. One morning, she walked into his office to find a muffin waiting for her on his side of the desk. "I got one for you too," he said without looking up. She stared. "You bought a muffin?" "Delegated the purchase. Still counts." She grinned and took a seat. "You're evolving." "I'm adapting," he replied, "to chaos." That same afternoon, while she was cleaning the frosting gun in the back of her truck, Ava's phone buzzed. A message from Nathan. "You free this Saturday night? There's a networking event. Dress code, not frosting stained." She hesitated. These weren't her spaces. These weren't her people. But maybe she didn't have to be someone else to belong. She showed up in a navy blue dress that hugged her modestly, with her curls pinned back and her sneakers traded for heels, unfamiliar and uncomfortable, like the room full of suits and scripted laughter she walked into. Nathan met her at the door. For the first time, his face softened in public. "You clean up well. I feel like an imposter," she muttered. "Good. So does everyone here." The night was a blur of introductions and fake smiles, but Nathan never left her side. When someone scoffed at her food truck business, he jumped in. "She feeds more people with heart than most of these companies do with funding." And Ava started to see him differently. Behind the money, the immaculate suits, and the stoic expression was a man constantly under pressure to prove himself. Not just to the board or investors, but to his mother, to his own past, to a version of himself he didn't even like anymore. That night, as he drove her home, the air between them felt charged. No longer awkward. Just full of things either dared to say. Outside her building, she paused before getting out. "Nathan," she said softly. "Yeah? You don't have to keep rescuing me, you know. I'm okay with being a mess." He looked at her, really looked at her. "Maybe I'm the one being rescued." She smiled, gently this time. No sarcasm. Just truth. "See you Monday?" he asked. She nodded. "Bring your own muffin next time. And maybe less armor." That night, Ava realized something had changed. Not just in him. In her. This wasn't just about paying a debt anymore. It was about something deeper. She no longer saw Nathan as the cold CEO she had to charm to survive. Now, she saw a man who needed her just as much as she was beginning to need him. Monday morning arrived with an unexpected twist. As Ava wheeled her now squeak-free cart into Langston Innovations, "Thank you, WD-40, Nathan was already waiting at the lobby. "We're not going to my office today," he said, stepping into the elevator beside her. "Am I being fired over muffins?" she asked, half joking. "Worse," he replied with a smirk. "I'm offering you an opportunity." The elevator didn't stop at floor 29. It kept rising. All the way to the 42nd floor, the private executive suite used only for investor meetings and strategy briefings. Ava had never even seen the floor before. It felt like stepping into another dimension of silence, wealth, and pressure. Nathan led her into a conference room where a sleek projector screen displayed the words, "Langston Women Forward Initiative." She blinked. "What is this?" He turned to her, hands in his pockets. "Something I've been working on. Quietly. But it's missing the one thing that'll make it real. Leadership from someone who's actually lived it." Ava stared at him. "Wait, you mean me?" "Yes. You." He clicked through slides outlining a mentorship program, microgrants, and pop-up support hubs for female entrepreneurs. Then came a final slide, her face mid-smile, mid-frosting. She gasped. "You screenshotted that?" You look determined. And also slightly homicidal. Perfect combo. But why me? She asked, suddenly unsure. I'm just... You're not just anything. Nathan interrupted. You're the kind of person this company needs. The kind of woman the world underestimates until it's too late. Silence settled between them. I don't know if I'm ready, she said quietly. He stepped closer. No one ever is. But I've seen what you do with cupcakes, chaos, and courage. Imagine what you could do with a team, a budget, and freedom. Ava's heart thudded. For a long time, she had only ever dreamed of surviving, paying bills, keeping her grandmother comfortable. But now, someone believed she could lead, that she was worth more. Still, doubt lingered. What if people think you're only doing this because of us? Nathan didn't flinch. Then let them. They'll see soon enough that this is yours. I'll step back. Publicly. You'll have full control. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the rush of possibility. So, what do you say? He asked. Ava looked at the screen, at her face beaming back with frosting on her cheek, and then back at the man who somehow saw her beyond the flower and sarcasm. I say, she breathed in. Let's build something real. Nathan grinned, not his usual smirk, but something softer, prouder. Good. Because the board meets Friday. And I already told them you'd be presenting. Ava's jaw dropped. I take it back. Too late, director, he said, handing her a folder labeled Program Lead Ava Carter. She clutched it to her chest, both terrified and thrilled. And just like that, a new door had opened. Not because of pity, not because of chance, but because she earned it. Ava had never seen her name on a glass office door before. And even though the temporary plaque outside her new workspace read, Program Lead Ava Carter, in black block letters, it may as well have been engraved in gold. But the pride came with pressure. The days that followed were a blur of Zoom calls, spreadsheets, grant applications, and meetings with skeptical board members who smiled too tightly and asked questions like, Do you have prior experience managing a multi-tiered philanthropic venture? To which Ava calmly replied, Only if you count running a cupcake cart while parenting my teenage sister, paying rent without being late, and serving over 4,000 cups of coffee without losing my mind. So yes, extensive experience. Her sarcasm softened some of them, but it was her tenacity that began to win them over. Nathan remained in the background. He sat silently during pitch meetings, watching her lead, speak, and stumble, without interfering. Instead, he left notes behind. Small ones. Post-its on her laptop. You handled that question like a pro. Your stats slide crushed. Bring back the cinnamon rolls next week. Even when he wasn't in the room, he was rooting for her. At home, life didn't slow down either. Ava still woke up at 5 a.m. to prepare meals for her grandmother. She still argued with her sister Camila about phone screen time and walked the neighbor's dog on weekends for extra cash. But somehow, despite the chaos, she felt different. Stronger. More herself than she'd ever been. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, while preparing a proposal for the next phase of the Women Forward initiative, Ava paused, mid-sentence, mid-sip of lukewarm coffee, and realized she wasn't doubting herself anymore. She was leading. She had built a small team of fierce, like-minded women. She delegated. She made calls. She sent rejection emails without over-apologizing. And when she presented their progress to the board on week 3, she used a word that once scared her: vision. After the presentation, she stepped into the elevator, emotionally drained but deeply satisfied. The doors were closing when a hand reached in and stopped them. Nathan. He stepped inside, holding 2 cups of coffee, hers with a little sticker that read, "Queen of Kick-Butt Presentations." "You killed it," he said softly. She took the cup and leaned against the wall. "I didn't throw up, so that's a win." "I've never seen the board nod that much," he replied. "That's because I fed them muffins beforehand." She smirked. "Muffins soften even the sharpest critics." Then silence. "Does it ever get easier?" she asked. "Balancing it all?" He shook his head. "No. But you get stronger. And eventually you stop trying to balance and just build a bigger table." Ava looked at him, not as the man who once threatened to call the police over a dented Jaguar, but as the person who had quietly become her anchor. "I'm not who I was 3 weeks ago," she said. "I know," Nathan answered. "You're more." It was a warm Saturday evening when the first event hosted by the Langston Women Forward Initiative came to life. The community center in Little Havana had been transformed with twinkle lights, folding chairs, and rows of booths run by local women, chefs, jewelry makers, seamstresses, mechanics, and even a mother-daughter coding duo from a nearby high school. Ava stood near the makeshift stage, hands dusted with powdered sugar from the dessert table she'd insisted on setting up herself. She was nervous. Not because of the crowd, but because this, all of this, was real now. And her name wasn't just on a coffee cup anymore. It was on banners, on grant documents, on the lips of women who'd walked up to her that evening saying, "You're the reason I'm trying again." Nathan arrived late, on purpose. He knew this was her spotlight. But when he walked in, Ava saw him right away. Not because he was the richest man in the room, but because he was the one who had quietly stood by when it mattered. As she stepped onto the stage to speak, Ava took a deep breath and looked out at the faces before her, hopeful, nervous, determined. Just like hers had been not long ago. "I used to think success meant having everything figured out," she began. "But then I realized some of the strongest people I know are still figuring it out, one messy, beautiful step at a time." Laughter. A few nods. She continued. "This foundation didn't start in a boardroom. It started with a cupcake cart, a mistake, and a grumpy man who gave me a deal instead of a fine." The crowd laughed louder now, including Nathan, standing in the back with his arms crossed and a slight blush. "But what really changed my life," Ava said, her voice softening, "was the belief that I could do more than survive. That I could build. And not just for me, for every woman who's ever been underestimated." A quiet hush settled over the room. "And if there's one thing I hope this program gives you, it's not money or connections or even success. It's permission. Permission to try. To fail. To rise again. And to know that where you come from does not limit where you're allowed to go." A beat of silence. Then applause, soft at first, then louder, then standing. Nathan clapped too, but he didn't move. He just watched her with a look of awe. Like he was seeing her all over again, for the first time. After the event, when the lights dimmed and the guests trickled out, Ava and Nathan found themselves alone near the dessert table. The last cupcake sat between them. She picked it up, broke it in half, and handed him a piece. "So, Mr. Langston," she said playfully, "still think I'm just a cupcake girl?" He looked at her with warmth in his eyes. "No. I think you're the woman who changed everything." And under those soft lights, with powdered sugar in her hair and a smile on her face, Ava finally believed it too. Ava's journey began with a mistake, a crash, frosting, and the fear of being punished by power. But what started as a humiliating accident turned into the catalyst for something greater: growth, belief, and purpose. Through determination, humility, and a pinch of humor, she transformed her life. The real lesson? Sometimes the worst moments are just miswrapped beginnings. We often think we need permission to step into something bigger, to speak up, to lead. But Ava didn't wait to be chosen. She showed up, messy and brave, over and over again. And in doing so, she didn't just fix a problem, she created a platform. She proved that resilience, paired with a genuine heart, can shift even the coldest boardroom. Love may have walked in unexpected, but it was Ava's courage, her unwillingness to shrink, that made everything possible. Maybe you're not running a cupcake cart, and maybe you haven't crashed into a luxury car. But chances are you've doubted yourself. You've felt out of place, underestimated, overwhelmed. Let Ava's story remind you, you don't need to come from money, power, or perfection to make an impact. You need grit, kindness, consistency. Whether you're starting a business, leading a household, going back to school, or just trying to survive the week, you already have what it takes. And if someone tries to tell you that you're just anything, smile, hand them a metaphorical cupcake, and keep going. Because your story's just getting started. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another story that will melt your heart and maybe even change your life.